some degree. They wish to remain invisible. They wish to remain unseen. They're not asking anybody for anything. They just want to be left alone. So those are not the ones that are truly homeless that you're going to see working the interstate exits. I know some of the ones that work the exits, they make close to about $200 a day. I've even given one a ride back to his home at the end of the day. He had a rental house off Ann Street. So I applaud anybody that wants to try to help someone they see panhandling. Please keep your caring heart. Don't stop that, but just use some discernment. I would never suggest giving out money. If they're truly homeless and they wanted help, I always suggest that they call 211. That's a local database call center they can call in for assistance. If you're going to give them anything, give them some bottled water, a hygiene kit. If they're really hungry and they are asking for food, a McDonald's gift card, or even take them to McDonald's or go pick something up from McDonald's and bring back to them. I really discourage passing out money. Anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. I want this to be an open panel back and forth. I'm not an expert by any means, stretch of the imagination, but I have spent a lot of time with various mission friends, homeless people out on the streets through MACH and through my homeless outreach at River City Church in downtown Montgomery. So whatever expertise I may have, I'll be happy to share it. But feel free to ask any questions as we go along. It's being mighty quiet out there.
Good afternoon. My name is James. Do you get very much help from other churches?
We do. If I can change hats and talk about River City Church just for an instance, once a month at River City Church in downtown Montgomery on Dexter Avenue, we have an event called Fourth Saturday Community Outreach. Now, our campus is big, it's 41,000 square feet, but we only have about 40 members, and half our congregation is either homeless or formerly homeless. So we welcome other churches to partner with us in this outreach event, and they do. They step in a big way from the Tri-County area. Many different churches, many different denominations come in and partner with us. And what it is that we do at a Fourth Saturday Community Outreach, we'll have maybe about 3 or 4 barbers cutting hair. We'll have about a dozen nurses doing wellness checks. Our food pantry's open, our clothes closet's open. We provide breakfast. We have about 5 restaurants that partner with us to provide lunch. Once every quarter, we have eye doctors from the Lions Club coming in to do vision testing. Twice a year, we have about 20 veterinarian students and their professor coming in from Auburn University, and they do a pet wellness clinic. And we first started that about 2 years ago. We had 200 dogs in our back parking lot lined up, ready to get their inoculations. So we try to think outside the box. How can we assist the homeless community? We've had massage therapists come in, set up their table, and give free therapeutic massages. We've had nail technicians come in and do fingernails for the homeless. Of course, we always have the various agencies, food stamp office, some insurance offices, things like that come into a Fourth Saturday to assist those in need. So yes, we welcome any churches that want to partner with us. They can contact me. And we also have services during the week. And we started this about 4 months ago, and we call it the Homeless Depot. And it operates on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I got to thinking, pandemic, it's hard for our homeless friends to get around Montgomery to go out to the food stamp office to see about their food stamps. It's hard for them to get into Social Security to try to sign Social Security or disability. So I reached out to these agencies and I said, would y'all like to have a satellite office on the campus and one day a week come in for about 3 hours and have a representative there? Mondays, we have mental at the church. Works on that day. Wednesdays, housing program, and we have a chaplain and a barber comes. It's a big day. Food stamp office on site. We have a Social Security attorney that's on site that comes out to assist the homeless with signing up for Social Security, with signing up for disability and homeless checks. And also we have a government phone person that's out there enrolling people for free government. So if that answers your question, I hope it does. We volunteers at the church either during the week or on a fourth Saturday community outreach event.
So this is Kathy Payne. I have a question.
Does that answer your question, James?
So this is Kathy Payne. I have a question. Do you know if the city of Montgomery has any plans in doing anything for the homeless and the people who
Yeah,
are
can you speak up a little bit,
panhandling?
Kathy?
I said, do you know if there are any plans for the city of Montgomery to start doing something for the homeless or those who are panhandling?
I think Kathy had a question, but it was hard for me to hear all the question. If she could speak up and repeat it, or somebody could paraphrase what
I heard her. Kathy was asking if you were aware or know of anything the city is going to be doing to help with the homeless issue.
I have a good friend in the mayor's office named Philip that I talk with, and he does assist us in our outreach at the church in particular. He works with the bus company and helping them provide us with about 100 bus passes every month. And transportation is a very, very dire need for the homeless community. And they're always coming up to our church during the week to try to get bus passes. So with the city assisting us with that, that's been a big help. Last summer when COVID first hit the scene and government was telling us to go wash our hands for 20 seconds numerous times a day, I talked to my pastor and I said, that's all fine and well and good if you've got a place to wash your hands at. But right now, the homeless aren't even allowed into gas stations and the restaurants because they're pretty much closed down because of COVID to wash their hands. Needless, and much less, they can't even wash their clothes or wash their body. So I found another church in Eclectic that had a portable shower unit. They let us borrow for about 4 months. And we put that in our back parking lot. And we called it the Loaves of Love. Had 2 shower stalls, 3 washers, 3 dryers, and 3 days a week, the homeless could come to the backside of our church, take a shower while volunteers wash their clothes. The city was very generous to us. They donated some towels, washcloth, and things like that. And they promoted it in a big way. And we're trying to get that installed permanently at our church. We're going to have 2 shower stalls, 3 washers, 3 dryers in our basement on a permanent basis. The city has worked with us. They've been very, very generous to us at the church and up here at MACH as well. In regards to MACH, the city, if you go downtown, you'll see some green parking meters, and that's called Feed the Meter. And all the monies that go into this meter comes back to MACH, but there's no restrictions on this money. We can use it without government restrictions. Like if we have a homeless person that needed help, maybe just being put up in a motel for a night or 2. And until they could get into a shelter, that money could be used for that. So yeah, the city is, they've been supportive of us. And hopefully I don't cough, but my allergies really been bad ever since last rain. So that's why I'm sucking on a cough drop. So please excuse that because I don't want to be coughing in your face. All right. I'll just try to speak up. All right. All right. I was talking about some unusual spots in the city where homeless camps could be found. I came across one at the end of last year, first part of this year. It was located by Greenwood Cemetery. It's been shut down. I hate to say it. Lady was out there that was ready to come off the streets. We'd already started the housing program process before it was shut down, and the people at that camp have scattered out and about. I've lost track of quite a few of them. I found a homeless encampment behind Red Lobster over there at East Del Mall. Found a homeless encampment behind an OBGYN out there on the east side of Montgomery off Taylor Road. So it's not just reserved for downtown and down by the river. It's all over Montgomery.
Yeah, Patrick, we frequently have visitors to our neighborhood park on Madison Avenue. We have to keep watch of it.
Right. Individuals at the park, what do you do? What's your reaction?
We usually try to discourage them to be there. We'll usually call the police and ask them to help assist us to ask them to leave.
Right.
Yeah, they use it for other things besides sleeping, you know, and that's when it becomes a problem.
Sure. Sure. Court apartments.
I'm sorry.
Grove Court. Are you familiar with the old Grove Court apartments?
Oh yeah, I think everybody probably is. The ones that are up at the height of Montgomery, if you will, on South Court.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been vacant for about 30 years.
Yes.
Well, you know, it's been purchased and they're renovating it right now. Judd Blunt is the developer, and he contacted me about 3 months ago. Said there was a homeless person living out there, and it's been vacant now for 30 years, no power, no water. But there's a homeless person living out there, and could I come out and talk to them? I said, well, have you tried? And he said, no. And I said, why not? He said, well, I wouldn't know what to say. I said, well, you usually just start off with hello. So I went out there and he showed me what room he was in, had a big red X on it, sort of like Katrina. And I knocked on the door, and eventually a gentleman came to the door, and I introduced myself and told him I was with MACH. I was there to possibly try to assist him. This man was 67. He was blind. He'd been out there for 3 years, no water, no electricity. He doesn't go out in the daylight because his cataracts are so bad, he only goes out at night. So I called him the Batman.
Yeah.
Long story short, he had no Social Security, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no food stamps, never used the government for anything. In fact, he'd never even voted, and he's 67. And Judd asked me, he said, do you think you can help him? I said, I can with time. He said, well, we will work around his room and do the rest of the apartment complex. And Judd was a man of his word. And I'm happy to say the Batman, and he had no identification. His last ID was from 2003.
Wow.
Okay. So he didn't have a birth certificate, didn't have a Social Security card. And for him to get into housing, we were going to have to get the unholy trinity, which was those 3 items. You can't get one without the other. That's the problem. It took us a full 2 days, me and the Batman walking around downtown trying to get his ID, Social Security card, and birth certificate. Remember, he's blind, so wherever we go, I'm having to hold him by the hand, leading him around. And, you know, he's older than I am. And I told him, I said, you know, I can't use his name, but Batman, you know, 60 years ago, they seen us walking around downtown Montgomery holding hands, a black man and a white man. We got in our tails kicked. But after 2 days, we finally got everything he needed.
Oh.
And actually, it was the probate office that showed us some grace. They gave us the ID that we needed, and because of that, we could get the other 2 items. He's in his own apartment. He has Medicaid. He's getting food stamps. He's receiving Social Security, and he's scheduled to have cataract surgery in about a month. He's going to get his sight back.
Amazing.
He's just the kindest, sweetest soul you'd ever want to meet. Was he homeless? 100%. Was he a panhandler? No, he wasn't. Did he try to sponge off the government? never signed up for Social Security. It wasn't taking any money in from the government. But he's doing well now. So that was a happy ending.
Absolutely.
And it's things like that that makes the end of the day worthwhile.
That's true. That was a good story.
It's a very good story. That was a successful one. That was a happy ending. There's been some after that hadn't been happy endings.
Is there anybody that wants to ask anything?
Yes, Patrick. Yeah, this is Charlene from Brighton Estates. So earlier, at the beginning of the call, you said that there is a differentiation between the homeless and panhandlers. So would it be a low percentage then that some panhandlers are homeless too, because the city has really had a rising since they have been now forbidden to, deal with the panhandler situation. And so, so would it really then be safe to say that most of the ones that we see, because see, I work over by Jackson Hospital, so we do see some homeless. Oh, it's awful. It's just totally ridiculous. But I see some that are sleeping on benches in the Oakwood Park, and so so now it's, I guess, kind of hard to tell. I guess maybe I was, a little dumbfounded on thinking that maybe most of them were, homeless people and just out there. But I mean, this panhandler situation has just gotten totally ridiculous. I mean, I live out east and all along Vaughn Road. Yep. I mean, it's getting crazy. So it's pretty safe to say then that most of those people are not homeless. There is one person who is on Mulberry Street, and right there at the entrance, they take their shoes off and then they walk across the street and sit there like they're bare feet. Then there is another person who has his arm folded all day, soliciting for money, but then in the evening time when he's walking away, he's swinging both of his arms. So those are just ones that are just trying to then get money, not that they're homeless, right?
Right.
Okay.
When the panhandling ordinance came out a couple of years back, and then they made an amendment to it, I was against it. For the first off, I was against it because I didn't think you should criminalize being poor. But when they added the amendment to it, that anybody that stopped and rolled down the window and passed out water, change, me passing out my business card, we could be fined for doing that, for being a good Samaritan. Yeah. Totally against that. Yeah, there is a problem with panhandlers, professional panhandlers that aren't necessarily homeless, working the exits. And at the initial part of my call, when I was talking about an exit, I was referring to Mulberry Street. There is a gentleman there that clears about $200 on a good day. And at the end of the day, I actually gave him a ride because it was so hot and took him to his house he's living in off Van Street. So what's the answer to it? If they didn't receive any money, they wouldn't have the need to stand out there trying to collect the money. There was no money to be gotten. Right. There's so many jobs in Montgomery right now. I mean, restaurants are begging for help. I can sympathize with the people out there trying to panhandle to a short degree. Right. They're not, the ones that aren't truly homeless, those are the ones my heart breaks for. They're the ones that need help, deserve help, and if they just got one little bitty chance, they would make the most of it. The ones that are professional panhandlers, I know what you're talking about. I've seen them. I've seen shift changes from one exit. Yes. And will come by, load, and take them to another exit to pick up the people at that exit and bring them to the other exit. I call it the shift change. And
excuse me, Patrick, can you hear me?
Yeah, who is this?
Hey, this is Ms. Ackley from Highland Park. Shouldn't that be a reason why we should have our police officers actually go and make those arrests, and once they make those arrests, they check the credentials of the homeless and the panhandlers. And for those who are homeless, those are the ones that need to be assisted to those shelters that are getting these government funds to take care of them. And those government funds, the people who are getting the government funds should actually process the ones that are homeless and help them to get assistance. But then those who are panhandlers should go to jail.
I wear a lot of T-shirts. Most of the ones. Go ahead.
My question is, why isn't the police officers making arrests when they do see them out on the street?
The ordinance has been passed now that they can't.
Yeah, the ordinance was defeated. That's no longer a crime to be a panhandler. They do encourage them to keep their corners clean. I see a lot of trash bags out there encouraging them to keep it clean. You know, I have a lot of T-shirts I wear. My favorite is Homeless Lives Matter, but I also have another T-shirt that says jail is not housing. You know, everybody, I'm not being condescending. Please don't think I am. Everybody says, well, they just need to go to a shelter. During the pandemic, getting into the shelter is not as easy as what it sounds. If you're trying to get in the Salvation Army and you're truly homeless, you have to get a COVID test done. For a homeless person, that transportation, having to make an appointment to go get a COVID test, wait the 3 or 4 days for their results to come back, and if they're negative, you have to go back out to the hospital to get a printed copy saying they are negative. Then and only then can you go to the Salvation Army, present your certificate that you're COVID free, and it's no guarantee they're going to have a bed available. Now, River City Church, we try to streamline the process. We have 3 nurses, retired nurses that volunteer weekly. We have the rapid COVID test at River City Church. You can come in 3 days a week, get a COVID test, have the results back in 15 minutes. The nurses print up a certificate, sign off on it, and you can take it down to the Salvation Army, which is only a mile away from our facility. And if they have a bed available, they'll let you in. I understand your frustration with the handlers working all over Montgomery, and they're going further east right now. Trust me, they're going where the money is, because there's not as many people panhandling out on the east side. There's even a report of a homeless lady camping out next to the Chantilly Walmart. I've looked for her. I can't find her because I think she's only coming out at night, but I've yet to locate her. The police aren't going to do anything unless they're aggressively panhandling, like beating on your window when you come up to an intersection, or if they're making too much of a mess, they may say something to them and ask them to move on, but it's not illegal to panhandle in Montgomery right now. I can see it from both sides. I really can. I just err on the side of compassion. What the answer is, I've looked at some studies from a sister city. I don't know if you can see that. It's called Preventing Panhandling. And I've been reading this study, trying to see if any of these ideas from this other city could work here in Montgomery. And I'm going to talk to my city councilman and give him some suggestions and see what he thinks.
Okay, also, I saw in one community that they were taking these little, like, storage houses and creating them into a homeless shelter, where they would take a lot and put those little storage rooms there and creating them into a place where the homeless people can stay. What is your take on that?
You know, we've often talked about it up here in my office, how great it would be to have a tiny home village. And of course, you would have to be accountable for your tiny home. You would have to qualify for it. You would have to be monitored to make sure that you weren't doing anything you weren't supposed to do. You're keeping it up. Where will we put it, though? You know, that's always the issue. Where would it be put?
Right. Okay, here's the thing. We have a lot of vacant lots here now that they're, you know, tearing down a whole bunch of these unlivable homes. So the state or the city, whoever the lots belong to, couldn't they use that as a starting point and offer it to the people who are homeless after they check their credentials, and hold them responsible for it by saying, hey, you got to go out here and get this job, and in order to take care of this space, which is your own space. What do you think about that?
In theory, it sounds very well and good, but if we're talking about taking over a vacant lot or a rundown home and converting it into a shelter of some sorts, or a place to put up tiny homes in a subdivision or a neighborhood, would the people that live in that neighborhood or subdivision have an issue with the homeless community springing up there?
Yes, they will.
Yeah, well,
but they got to go somewhere. They're going to go somewhere regardless. So,
yes.
I mean, they got to live somewhere. And my only remedy is, okay, take some of that money that these homeless shelters are getting and invest it into some of those tiny homes, and allow them to come out and say, okay, here's where our money is going, so we're going to come out here and do our inspections to make sure that these homeless people are following the rules and the regulations. I think that would be something that would help a lot of the ones who really want their own place, but make it a one-bedroom as possible so they won't have any company, and so that they do follow the rules and the regulations. That would, I think, to me, that would help a lot for some of them. And then they would have to go through a training in a workshop. They should go through some type of mental health training, some type of life coaching, I guess, to teach them how to take care of their tiny homes, to make sure that they go to therapy or something. I don't know. What do you think?
One thing you kept stressing was rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the homeless that I deal with, that I'm trying to get off the streets, trying to get them to go to Friendship Mission or Salvation Army, that is the number one reason why they will not go to a shelter. Rules and regulations. They'd rather sleep out in the woods, sleep in a vacant warehouse where they could be their own boss. And like my daddy always taught me, you can pull a rope, you can't push it. You know, I can show them the way, but I can't make them go that way if they don't want to go. And it's frustrating. Trust me, it's very frustrating.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick.
Yes.
Hello, this is Janice Carter. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Janice Carter with Seth Johnson Neighborhood Association.
Yes.
There is one saying, you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it. So
yes.
I understand. This is a huge problem for us, but I'm leaning more toward what you said at the very beginning, and that is, don't give them money, because you really don't have any way of knowing whether a panhandler is a panhandler or if they're actually homeless. And I know you said, based on your experience, the majority of the time, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, you said that homeless people aren't usually out there on the corners panhandling.
No, they're not.
Is that correct? Okay. So I'm with you. Give them a pack of hygiene. Give them a gift card for somewhere to eat. And a lot of times with me, my spirit just discerns who might be genuine and who might not. I base that on me. Not to say that I'm absolutely 100% right, but a lot of times I just go with my gut feeling. But giving them money, that's the problem. And I'm with you. Just don't give money to anyone that's out there. Give them things that they might possibly need, because I don't want to cut and dry everybody and say, oh, all of these are panhandlers. All of them are professionals. No, because I don't know people's needs. And so I don't want to dismiss them like that, because this is a very sad situation when you have people here in the United States of America, and they don't have a home.
Especially when they're veterans.
Especially if they're veterans.
Yep.
That's horrific. It's horrific.
There's a gentleman on the Atlanta highway area that I've been trying to help for about 2.5 years. He served in Vietnam. When I first met him, he's a tall individual. He's about 6'3", wears like a size 12 or 13 shoe, and the shoes he was wearing was a size 9. His toes were sticking out, and his heels were sticking out. Those holes on the bottom. His feet were black and blue. He didn't have any socks on. And when I found out he was a veteran, that just broke my heart. We owe our veterans more than what they've gotten. They've given so much, and they've never gotten anything back like they deserve. So that just really breaks my heart when they're veterans or when they're children. Now, I only come across a small percentage of true homeless children, because single mothers, when they have children and they're homeless, they do not come out. They're scared of DHR trying to take the kids away, which does DHR, that's the last thing they want to do. But mothers are scared for the thought of losing their children. So I come across some single moms with their kids, but it's only because they've reached out and called into the office. I want to go back to your point about what kind of help to offer someone. Last week up in Prattville, Prattville has a page sort of like Montgomery's City Uncut page, and it's called Prattville City Uncut. And my name kept getting tagged in this one post about a gentleman that was reported as being homeless up there behind City Hall. So someone sent me a picture of where he hung out at. And I went up there last week, and the mayor and one of his staff was out actually there waiting when I got there, and somebody else from another department. And we talked, and they showed me where this gentleman was staying. And because it had been posted on Facebook, he had a bench just full of hygiene products, clothes, food. I mean, a bunch of food and water. And it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And Prattville always prides itself, and I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times, they don't have any homeless in Prattville. Well, no, it's because they export Montgomery. But I was talking to the mayor. He said, "What can you do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to talk to the gentleman to see if he's receptive to going to a shelter, see if he has income, see if he qualifies for the housing program, and just, get a chance to talk to him and get him to trust me." So we sat down and talked. The gentleman has Huntington's disease, which is very similar to Parkinson's. So he's doing this quite a bit. And we joked a little and talked about some movies we enjoyed and sports like that. I gained his trust. And there was a barbecue place up there he used to like to go to eat at and sleep out in front. They're not letting him come in there anymore because it's hot. And I'll be honest, he was very aromatic because he probably hadn't had a bath in 2 months, hadn't washed his clothes in about 2 months. He's very aromatic, but that's just life on the streets. When you deal with a homeless person, you either put Vicks under your nose or you breathe through your mouth. So I got to listening to him and learned his story. And I Googled the disease while I was talking to him, and he's going to have a tough rest of his life. I can tell you that. Has no insurance, but he does get a disability check, and it's a pretty good amount. So he could afford housing if he was willing to go. He would not go to a shelter. But when I was talking to the mayor and some of the other people up there, they said, "What can we do?" I said, "Well, first off, we need to tell the people," and I applaud them for having a compassionate heart, but they've got to stop bringing all this food up here. He's got money. He can buy his own food. I said, what he's doing, he's not going to be able to carry all that food with him. It's just going to sit there and rot. It's going to draw bugs. It's going to draw animals. And I said, please don't think I'm being heartless, but y'all don't want them here behind City Hall. I know that for a fact. This is down there by the creek. It's a scenic attraction where a lot of tourists go. They don't want a homeless man sleeping there. I knew some of the kids were kind of scared this guy's harmless, but because he jitters like that, some of the kids were scared. I said, so by all these people bringing food up here and clothing and things like that, it's like feeding a feral cat. Once you do it, they're not going to leave. And this
That's
guy,
right.
he said he would be happy if he had a tent and could just go to a campsite. So somebody was going to donate a tent and put him up in a campsite for a month. My main concern was his health. So as soon as I got back to the office, I reached out to my contact at Medicaid because he said he'd been denied 3 times for Medicaid. And with his condition, I don't understand why. So I'm trying to wait on Medicaid to give me a decision if this guy actually has insurance coverage or not, because he really needs to go back into the hospital. So that's my first concern. Once we get that addressed, he said he's willing to go into housing. He will not go to a shelter. He's willing to go into housing. So we're going to be looking for affordable housing in the Prattville area for him to go. But my point is, and I always use the analogy, don't feed a feral cat if you don't want them hanging around 100% of the time. I know it sounds cold and callous, but he didn't need the food. The city didn't want the attention for number one. And that's not my main concern when I go to talk to a client, but it was right behind City Hall, and they always brag about we don't have any homeless. And I'm thinking, look out your back door.
Yeah. Now, Patrick, tell me again the name of the church that you mentioned earlier where you all are working downtown.
Yeah, it's River City Church on Dexter Avenue.
Okay.
If you're on Dexter looking at the Capitol, Dr. King's church is on the right. River City Church is on the left with the tall green steeple and all the stained glass. If you've ever heard of Diane Frost Academy, they're on our campus as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're in the same building.
Gotcha. All right.
Patrick, I have a comment.
Sure.
It seems that everybody, it's a complicated issue, but everybody think it's a simple answer. And that's kind of how everybody look at it. And the thing that you've said that people are seeming to overlook is that a lot of people have mental issues.
Yeah,
you know, it's not something that they want to go out there and do. You know, a lot of them have mental issues. And the heartbreaking part, the real heartbreaking part, is the veterans that are out there, and nobody does anything. You know, nobody's willing to get out there and do anything about it. You know, they say, you know, thank you for your service, but evidently it's like, okay, once you get out of service, you know, stand to the side or whatever. You know, we have nothing else for you. That's the heartbreaking part more than anything to me.
It is. And like this veteran I told you on Atlanta Highway, the older gentleman, it broke my heart when I saw his feet. His feet were in bad shape from wearing shoes 3 sizes too small. And I had some new socks and I had a new pair of size 13s. When I went down to peel off his old shoes, I said, my friend, do you mind if I wash your feet? Because there was no sense putting clean socks on dirty feet. And I had some wipes and some bacterial soap, and I washed down his feet. Was it pleasant? No, it wasn't pleasant. But you know what? If my Savior could do that for the disciples, this was the least I could do for a veteran. And I'm not saying that pat myself on the back, but he deserves so much more. But he did have mental issues. You know, I worked with the VA and I worked with Priority Veterans, some other veteran organizations. Actually, at one point, he got off the streets, went into housing. He could not do it on his own. He wanted to be in a group setting, but they kept putting him in housing on his own by his lonesome, and he wouldn't do it. And he's back out on the streets again, and I hate it. And, you know, this man, he's pushing 80 now, sleeping outside. But like I said, in our state, we can't have him committed and make him go somewhere and force him to stay. He's got to want to go, and he hadn't got to that point yet. So I don't know what we can do.
Patrick, okay, so he likes to be in a group setting. That's what you said, right?
He was in a group setting at one time, and, you know, they go through stages. He was in a group setting, and it comes a time when you have to graduate and go out on your own. I have no control over that because it's part of the Veterans Association. And, you know, once I start helping somebody find out they're a veteran, I always steer them over to the VA because they've got the resources that I don't. And it's under their jurisdiction.
So let me ask you this. Back to the tiny homes again.
Yeah.
It can be for homeless women with children and for homeless veterans. And there you can
I would keep them
cluster maybe
separated.
4. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Keep the women separate with children in a separate camp.
Right. And then one for the veterans. What do you think about that?
Again, if there was land made available and there wasn't a neighborhood or a district that was opposed to it. You know, when the Salvation Army announced they were moving or selling their land down there by the riverfront, you know, at one time they talked about moving out on the west side on the same stretch of road as Friendship Mission. That was even opposed by the residents over there because they had one shelter, they didn't want another one.
Right. Okay. So I don't think the community would be opposed to having those little tiny homes for women with homeless women with children, or placing those veterans out where on some vacant land where they won't be by themselves, but they'll be amongst others, and they can actually help each other, if you get what I'm saying.
Sure.
Patrick.
Yes.
My name is Michelle Krosky. I am a veteran, and it took me to
Thank you for your service.
It took me to 2019 for to get any assistance, because it's not as easy as people think it is. And I dealt with my mental illness since 2006. I am a single mother as well. I didn't have a baby until I got out the military. And DHR is to the point where you can't work like you're supposed to work in the pace. If you're used to working 3 or 4 jobs, keeping busy, you can't do that when you're a single parent, veteran or no veteran. I don't even know, I've came close to almost being where I'm gonna stay in my house and pay the house and don't worry about the lights. I don't care if they get cut off. I don't care if the water get cut off. I will put water outside to bathe because I'm back in old school where I used to have to use an outdoor toilet and go outside and use a toilet and take newspaper and rub it together to wipe myself. So I remember them days because that's when my grandmama lived there, and that's how we had to live. And we caught water outside when it rained. It is what it is. Or we had a well, and it didn't have to worry about paying a water bill. So it's confusing to see that in Alabama, is no place in Alabama for single parents. As far as if you got a child, you can't. It's like the program. I wanted to go through the program once I found out about the program. I'm not qualified to go to the program unless I give up my child. And that's like taking something away from me. I can't give my baby up to go to any kind of service. I totally disagree with that.
Right.
I totally disagree with it. So it's sort of hard for a single parent that is a veteran, that just got service connected, but been out since 2006. And you have a baby, life changed tremendously. And I do agree with you. Don't give panhandlers money, but when you make it a law and make it okay, there's nothing you really can do about it. But I do agree, it starts within us. If we don't give them money, you'll know if they panhandle. Because when I tell them, let's go to McDonald's with my little girl, get on the back of my truck and ride with me to get the food, they be like, that's okay, that's okay. That means you're not hungry.
Yep. And getting back to the panhandling ordinance, the reason I was so opposed to it, it should be my decision if I pull up to an intersection and see John Q. Public over there panhandling. It should be my decision if I give that person money or not. I don't think the government should step in and tell me, no, you can't do that. No, that was the biggest reason I was against it. That should be a person.
I agree with you.
Yep. Hey, have you ever heard of Priority Veteran?
No, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I'm trying, but like I said, it's really hard. You know, when they look at you, they figure, oh, your life is perfect. Nothing's wrong.
Yep.
But they don't know what's inside. I deal with a lot.
A Priority Veteran, you already have housing, so there wouldn't be of any benefit to you. But when I come across a veteran that needs housing, I usually steer them towards Priority Veteran first because they're able to work so much quicker.
Okay.
So Any other time you have any questions about what could be out there to maybe assist you, try 211 if you've never called them before.
Okay, I never called them. I only heard of 311 and 611. I
Yeah,
never heard of 211.
211. It can be used for anything. It is a statewide call center. They're first off going to ask you for your zip code when you call in. And once you connect to the Montgomery call center, tell them whatever issue you're going through, have a pen and paper ready, because they're going to give you a list of organizations you've never heard of, never even thought of, that are geared toward assisting you in your particular need. And I'll suggest if you come across a homeless panhandler or just a panhandler in general working the intersection, tell them about 211. If they're really eager to get off the streets, that's a good place to start, because they would connect them with our MACH office.
Okay, sounds good.
And I do thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
What branch were you in?
Air Force.
There you go.
Time management. I handed everybody the supplies, from guns to ink cartridge, paper, any tools, their stripes, their uniform, their shoes.
You did it all.
Yes. And signed for it and sent it out and gave it out.
All right. Well, Jen, thank you for your service.
Patrick, I think we've got time maybe for about one more person, and then we need to close, I think.
All right.
Anybody got anything else to ask?
Just real quick.
This is Sandra Lewis. Real quick.
Hello?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, this is Sandra Lewis. Can you hear me?
Hey, Sandra.
This is Sandra Lewis. I have one question. Hey, how you doing, Patrick? Listen, I have one question. I know that there are 3 facilities currently that help sheltering the homeless: the Men's Friendship Mission, the ladies are in Chisholm, and then you're saying the Salvation Army. I'm wondering, are these 3 facilities sufficient enough to accommodate those that come to them, or do you think like another facility would be helpful?
Well, because of COVID, there was bed restrictions at both the shelters, Friendship and the Salvation Army. Some of those restrictions are starting to be relieved a little bit, and they're running at full capacity right now when I checked yesterday. So affordable housing is the #1 answer to end of the homeless situation. And it would be nice to have some extra shelter space.
What about Truth and Reality Ministries?
Well, they're not a shelter.
They have bathroom facilities and washing machines.
Yeah, but we were talking about shelter space, a place to actually sleep at night.
Okay.
Mercy House is another good day shelter. It's a good place to go to get your laundry done and take a shower and get some groceries. But it's actually for sleeping somewhere safe at night. You got Friendship Mission and Salvation Army. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for participating with us today.
I enjoyed it.
I did too. I've learned some things. I've got a page full of notes and stuff, so we'll have to have you back. Everybody, I also want, if you would, there's some of you that have called in that we don't see your name, and I know that's not going to show up for a name's not going to show up for us to be able to give you your training credits. So how about everybody, as you log off, turn around and send us an email right quick that you were on the thing, on the call, or give us a call at 625-2175, just to let us know you were on there, on here today. So, yes.
Can I interject one more thing?
Yes, sir.
Follow me on Facebook. It's under Patrick Aitken, Aitken. I have a lot of information about our homeless population, their needs, and what can be done. So if you follow me on Facebook, that's the easiest way to keep up what's going on.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. That's because I was thinking the hygiene bags might be a really good project for a neighborhood to do. So,
or even a church youth group or a Sunday school that love doing the hygiene kits.
Yes. Okay, well, if that, I think that's everything. So you guys go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you next time. I hope y'all enjoyed it, so let us know.